Question time. The boys respond. Cue Julian.
Question from Mark. Current subscriber, blue belt, turning 50 this year. I train jits 4 or 5 times a week. Have been doing standard since November of last year, as well as extra mobility each week. I'm thinking of going to compete in World Masters in September of next year. I'm pretty strong and athletic and have had to work more at mobility and just mat endurance. I want a plan for the next 15 months. What would you recommend? Muscle cardio for 6 cycles, then back to standards? Or kettlebell, strength 101, or what? I want to be the strongest, most mobile, endurance capable I can be in 15 months. I love the program and recommend it to everyone. Thanks for all you do from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, United States.
Shout out.
Bulls, what a legend.
To the south.
So I responded on the message to Mark, and what I said, I'm interested to hear what you think. I said, look, man, how strong do you consider yourself to be? And he's like, I'm pretty strong.
Okay.
I'm like, all right, well, look, if you're strong, then I think we probably don't need to spend a huge amount of time on that, right? Let's focus on some endurance and some mobility, because he did say like mobility is a thing. But we don't need 15 months of conditioning work.
No, it's a lot.
So what I said was like, look, dude, why don't you jump into muscle cardio where it is more muscular endurance biased for a couple of cycles. So that's like 3 months.
Yep.
And then jump off that, jump back into standards for like a cycle, might be 6-8 weeks. And you can kind of just go back and forth like that for a while. Then leading up close to the event, maybe 4 months out, you maybe want to jump on a conditioning specific program.
Sure.
But it's like 15 months. You don't want to just be doing one thing.
No, definitely not. I think when you look at 15 months, like let's just say it was 12 and play with the last 3, see how you go. Yeah, very similar to what you said. I would maybe even say have a look at the kettlebell program and do that. Like take that through for 9 months and then come back to muscle cardio. Like
because you got a lot of conditioning in that at the back end
there
of
is
cycles,
the double kettlebell work and the carries with the complexes.
And they're in the last 2 cycles. There's 6 cycles all up.
Correct. Nice. So we're looking at 9 months if you're doing all of the cycles. So I would actually say it could be worthwhile doing the kettlebells all the way through and then coming back to muscle cardio.
Nice.
Joshua says, hey lads, 40-year-old blue belt here. I've been a listener of the podcast since you taught me how to lance my own ear from audio only. Safe to say, I didn't die. I have 2 bulges in the lumbar, S1 to L5, L5 to L4, and the second one has a significant tear in the annulus. I've consulted with a neurosurgeon and won't go for a fusion. Working with my physio and GP on pain neuroscience and rehabbing the injury daily. My glutes and lower back isn't complete dog shit, but aim to improve. Jits exacerbates the shit out of it. I stopped wrestling and gone to a guard game. Less pain manipulating people with legs instead of hunching over playing a top game. Still, it got the best of me and I stopped 4 weeks ago. I don't want to be a statistical blue. Do you see people manage this type of injury? Thanks in advance.
Okay, I'm going to say the approach you took is not quite on point. I understand the idea that you don't want to hunch over when you're passing. Playing guard is going to put you in flexion. So, provided I'm understanding this correctly, if you've herniated the discs, bulged the discs through flexion, more flexion is going to be bad. So, you need to spend a bit more time in extension. Now, if you're finding that wrestling is too much, you might want to have a look at passing on your knees. Even though this is old school, this allows you to keep quite a straight back, posture good, and you're not loading up through your hips as much as opposed to shooting and wrestling. So I would actually say that if you're trying to manage the pain of bulged discs, and it sounds like you've got your therapists and your physios all covered, which is really good, playing guard is not what you should be doing with bulged discs. That's what I'm going to say.
That's a fair point. I'd also say like maybe worth looking at hamstrings and calves, because if you're tight through the hammies, any kind of standing position where you're hinged at the hip, there's going to be pressure on the back there, right? If you're super tight. Whereas if you've got a bit more range in the hammies, you can more comfortably sit in that position. In terms of his question at the end there, have we seen people manage bulged discs and train jiu-jitsu? Absolutely.
Yep.
Can be done. You want to speak to someone who knows that shit? Dr. Andrew Locke.
Dr. Andrew
would
Locke
be a great resource.
The absolute master of managing bulged discs and also back pain in general. So you can check out his stuff at, I think it's just at Dr. Andrew Locke.
Yeah, you find him through our Instagram.
He's awesome.
At Bucket70 asked, would you do a talk regarding nutritional supplements and what you take or would recommend? Joint health, for example.
Yeah, we did do a Q&A on this a long time ago on YouTube.
We did indeed, and I'd done a YouTube live probably more than 18 months ago. Similarly, when it comes to joint health and nutrition, it's interesting because people will take certain supplements and say they feel a benefit, but I'm very very limited on this, so don't take this with a grain of salt. A lot of what people are benefiting from is the act of taking the thing. It's like a placebo effect. Like the actual benefit of taking like glucosamine and chondroitin or whatever they're taking is just in their mind.
Yeah, I feel like glucosamine really had a peak about 15 years ago. I know my dad was pumping it.
You're not hearing anything about it now.
Nothing.
Right?
Yeah, don't know if it really ended up being very bioavailable.
Like people are like, yo, you better have like, what is it from beef? Collagen.
Yeah.
Oh, if I have collagen, will that fix my joints? Well, it's like, look, collagen is it's an amino acid, right? So yeah, it's a form of protein. Does that help things repair? The fact that you took it from an animal's joint doesn't mean it helps your joints. Do you know what I mean? There's this conception like, oh,
if I eat it, it will go to there.
Which is not necessarily true.
It's true, but I would say if you are eating like a typical sort of Western like diet where the meat is primarily muscle meat, I think maybe something here's something where Liver King maybe is onto something.
Oh,
if you do eat different parts of the animal, as is done more in more traditional cultures, broths made from the bones,
yes.
You're eating tendons, you're eating a little bit of organ, and you're eating some muscle meat. You are getting this diversity of nutrients
for sure.
So I would think like in terms of supplementation, collagen, but otherwise just eat more whole animal. And you don't have to eat raw bull's testicles.
What?
Unless you want to.
But what I was going to say is just on that too, if you've got a high degree of inflammation in your body because your diet is imbalanced or you're drinking alcohol a lot or, you don't drink enough water, like there's a lot of factors. People get gout not because just because their diet's very imbalanced and that can create joint pain. So you want to consider that maybe you're eating other things which might be causing pain and discomfort in your joints.
Yeah, it's a really good point. Yeah, I've spoken to plenty of people that have like, I've cut nightshades out of my diet and my knees feel great.
Sure.
Right? Like tomatoes and eggplants and shit. And you're like, whoa, amazing.
There you go.
So bit of an investigation for yourself.
For sure.
Chad Morris asks, would you call an instructor who does not compete a hobbyist?
I call him a little bitch. No, no, not at all. Coming from the guy that never competes.
No, but I mean, look at a guy like Heath Pedigo, right? He's on the mats. He's a total savage. He was a competitor for a long time. He also is like severely injured. He had eye surgery. There's a lot of things. He is an amazing coach and has created amazing athletes. He's not competing.
You know what I would call them? I'd call them a coach.
Yeah.
It's a role, right? And it's to be the mentor and to be the guide for people. Usually you're not competing and stuff because you're busy focusing on them.
Yeah.
So like look at Danaher, right? Like you'd call him a coach or a teacher or a, whatever, a sensei.
Master.
Yeah, I think maybe with that question, it's a bit loaded in terms of hobbyist being like a derogatory term.
Yeah.
And it's not, guys. It's a term of empowerment.
No, but they're professional. Like hobbyist is you're a blue belt and you train sometimes. They're a black belt. They've dedicated their whole fucking life to it.
Yeah.
They're professional. It's not like, I do it sometimes. It's their life. And I think the problem is everybody wants to see the hot, sexy competitor, but often great competitors are shit coaches.
Well,
great athlete doesn't necessarily make a great coach.
No, and you do see some like Galvão, say 5 years ago, like, whoa, he's like world champion and also training this team. Incredible. That period doesn't last long and most can't do it.
Yep.
Last question. We've got 1 minute.
At Paco888 asks, can you make a video about your own training schedule when you guys were younger and now when you are older, and how you guess it would be in the future as you age?
We could do a video about it.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, I'm up for it. I mean, I'll just give you a summary right now. Used to train jiu-jitsu twice a day, 6 days a week, and lift weights every single day. Now, train jiu-jitsu once or twice a week, lift weights 5 times a week. It depends on your goals, man. Like, I think that's what it's all about. There was a time in my life where I want to be a world champion, and now it's like I just want to be super strong and still be good at jiu-jitsu. And I think as you get more skills, you don't have to train as much. I think when you're on the accumulation phase, you got to do way more.
Yeah. I was kind of like that, but just 50%. Thanks, fam.